Dr. Zara Chen pressed her face against the cold metal wall of her cell and listened. The alien ship shuddered again, groaning like some great beast in its death throes. She held her breath, straining to catch the sounds beyond the narrow slit of her door. For 3 long years, she had lived in this box. 3 years since the hegemony had captured her during humanity's first naive attempt at diplomacy with the stars. 3 years since the aliens had decided humans were not equals, not partners, but curiosities, clever animals to be studied, dissected, broken. And in all those years, Zara had never once heard them afraid. Until now. The corridor outside echoed with hurried footsteps, with clipped shouts in the hegemony's strange clicking tongue. Orders barked, panicked responses overlapping. The sharp smell of ozone filled the recycled air as red warning lights pulsed, painting her steel walls in flashes of blood. Something was wrong, catastrophically wrong. The ship lurched sideways. Zara slammed against the opposite wall, ribs aching, then staggered upright, her shackles rattling faintly. She stumbled toward the tiny reinforced window in her door just as 3 insect-thin hegemony crew scuttled past, long limbs jerking with unnatural speed. Their antennae twitched erratically. Fear. She had learned to read it in them, the same way she had once studied alien ecosystems on Earth. These proud overlords, the ones who had caged her kind, who had stripped Earth bare, were terrified. The ship's speakers crackled. A harsh announcement rolled through the corridors in their guttural language. Zara caught fragments she understood, her ear attuned from years of forced exposure. Core breach Section 7, evacuation required. Her blood ran cold. Evacuation. Her fingers tightened around the cell bars until her knuckles whitened. The hegemony would never waste a seat on a prisoner. To them, Zara wasn't a person. She was cargo, specimen, property. If the ship went down, she would go down with it. The lights flickered and died. For a moment she was plunged into total blackness, left alone with only her shallow breaths and the distant groan of tortured metal. Then emergency power hummed to life, bathing everything in a dim crimson glow. Zara sank to the hard metal bed bolted to the floor. She wanted to scream, to pound the walls until her fists bled. But what was the point? No one would hear, no one would come. Her mind betrayed her, flashing back to Earth, to sunlight, to the laughter of her younger brother, to her mother's voice, warm and steady. Were they still alive, somewhere under hegemony chains, or had they been wiped away with the billions the aliens had enslaved? Her throat tightened, she buried her face in her hands. The sound of footsteps made her jerk upright. Not the frenzied stampede of the crew, slower, measured. She rose and peered through the window. 3 figures approached. The first was short, covered in coarse brown fur with nervous eyes that darted back and forth. Vex, a Korak, one of the maintenance engineers. His people were treated little better than humans, forced into crawl spaces and reactor shafts where no hegemony officer would dare go. She had seen him before, bent over consoles, his fur singed from radiation burns. Behind him came Nara, tall and willowy, her pale blue skin almost glowing under the red lights. A medic of the Velter, a species with hands renowned for their healing. Nara had tended Zara's injuries more than once, slipping her water or bandages when no one else cared if she lived or died. The third was Kielter, massive, stone-skinned, his rocky plates scarred from battles long past. Once he had worn the black armor of the Hegemony Guard. Months ago, he had lost that rank for reasons Zara never learned. Now he walked like a man carrying the weight of his own failure. They didn't move like the others, no frantic jerks, no rush to save themselves. They moved with purpose toward her cell. Zara's heart thudded. Vex knelt before her door, pulling a small, jury-rigged device from his satchel. Lights blinked weakly on its surface as he pressed it against the lock. The human forced her voice steady, speaking in halting common. What are you doing?" Nara glanced down the hall, voice hushed. "Ship is dying, core breach, less than 1 hour." "Then go," Zara hissed. "Leave me, you'll be killed if they find you here." Vex didn't look up, his hands steady on the device. "They're leaving you anyway, to burn." Zara's throat clenched. Why risk yourselves for me?" Kielter's rumble filled the corridor. "Because 3 years ago you saved me." Zara blinked. "In cargo bay, gravity surge. A crate broke loose. You shouted, I moved, I lived." Her memory flooded back, that day. She had seen the container falling, seen Keelter frozen in its path. She had shouted without thinking. The guards had beaten her bloody for speaking without permission. But Keelter had lived. Nara spoke softly. "And you saved my sister. She was sick. Your knowledge of medicine, human and alien, kept her alive." Vex's small hands worked faster, the device chirping. "And you fixed my translator when the overseers broke it. Without you, I'd have died of misheard orders. We all owe you." The lock gave a sharp click. The door slid open. Zara stumbled into the corridor, staring at them with wide eyes. Free. For the first time in years, free. "You'll be executed if caught," she whispered. Vex's fur bristled. "If we stay, we die. If we run and fail, we die. But if we run and succeed." "We live," Nara finished. Another explosion rocked the ship. Flames licked from a vent down the corridor. The air smelled of burning circuits. Keelter jerked his head. "Move, I know a shuttle. It's damaged, but maybe Vex can make it fly." Zara's legs trembled as they ran, her muscles weak from years of confinement. But adrenaline burned in her blood, pushing her forward. They climbed through maintenance shafts, ducked under sparking conduits, skidded across trembling walkways. "How long until detonation?" she gasped. Vex checked a trembling readout. 43 minutes, maybe less. Her chest heaved. She had been a prisoner, a forgotten human specimen, a ghost of her old life. But now 3 strangers, 3 aliens, had given her something she thought she'd never feel again. Hope. Perfect. Here's part II, escape through fire, \1 400 words, continuing directly after part I. #part II, escape through fire. The shuttle bay was chaos. Sparks showered from broken conduits. Smoke drifted through the cavernous hangar like a creeping fog. Most of the evacuation craft were gone, their docking clamps empty, the floor littered with dropped tools and abandoned gear. Only one vessel remained. A small emergency shuttle, slumped at an angle, hull blackened from old blast scoring. One of its engines sagged crookedly, half disconnected from its mounts. Panels hung open, wires dangling like exposed veins. It looked like a corpse. "This is your miracle," Nara demanded, her normally calm voice sharp with fear. Vex was already scrambling toward it, his small body moving quick and sure despite the tremors shaking the bay. "It's broken," he admitted, "but not dead. I can make it fly." Keelter set down a crate of supplies with a heavy thud. His stone-plated skin glistened with sweat. "Do it fast, we don't have time." Zara stood frozen at the edge of the bay, staring at the shuttle. This was freedom. A crippled craft half held together with rust and desperation. For 3 years she had dreamed of escape, and this was all the universe offered her. Her throat tightened, but then she forced herself to move. Her legs still trembled with weakness, but she bent and lifted a smaller container, dragging it to the shuttle. Nara was beside her, carrying medical kits with surprising strength. "You should rest," the medic said gently. "I've done enough resting," Zara snapped, sharper than she intended. 3 years in a cage, I'm done sitting still." Nara didn't argue, she just gave the faintest smile. Vex disappeared under the shuttle, his tools clattering. Sparks flew as he rerouted power conduits and bypassed safety circuits. "Main drive is fried," he called, voice muffled. "But I can push juice through the secondaries. It'll be slow, but it'll burn." Keelter scanned the bay entrance with his massive arms folded, watching for patrols. The ship groaned again, a deeper, more terrible sound. Somewhere far off, metal screamed as whole sections tore loose. Zara swallowed. "How long do we have?" Vex slid out from beneath the shuttle, fur matted with grease, his eyes wide. 40 minutes if we're lucky, 30 if we're not." The shuttle's hatch groaned open with a reluctant hiss. The inside was worse than the outside. Cramped, seats torn, consoles cracked. Zara slid into the navigator's chair, strapping herself in as her heart thundered. Her hands trembled over the controls. It felt alien under her fingers, yet at the same time familiar. She had once been a scientist, yes, but also a pilot on Earth expeditions. She remembered how it felt to guide machines through hostile skis, to trust metal wings when her own flesh was too weak. Keelter climbed into the pilot's chair, massive hands spanning the controls. Nara strapped herself opposite Zara, pale eyes fixed on her with quiet determination. Vex took the engineer's console, tools still clutched in his paws. For a moment, silence. Then Keelter growled, "Hold on." The shuttle shuddered as its damaged thrusters coughed to life. A deep vibration rattled Zara's teeth. The deck beneath her feet hummed like a wounded animal struggling to rise. And then, with a violent lurch, the shuttle tore free from the bay. The stars opened before them, cold, endless. Zara gripped her seat, breath caught in her throat. For the first time in 3 years, there were no bars between her and the stars. Freedom. But it was fragile. The shuttle bucked and rolled, its damaged engine sputtering. Warning sirens screamed in alien tones. "Stabilizers failing," Vex hissed, his claws darting over controls. "We're leaking fuel through the cracked manifold. I can reroute." "Do it," Keelter barked. His rocky hands moved the controls with surprising precision, fighting the shuttle's spin. "How far do we need to get?" Zara asked, her voice tight. 50,000 kilometers, Vex replied without looking up. "That's the safe radius, any closer when the core goes and we're vapor." "And how far can we get?" Nera asked quietly. Vex hesitated, his fur bristled. 30,000, maybe 35. The silence that followed was crushing. Zara's pulse thundered in her ears. 30,000, that wasn't enough, that was death. The console blinked an angry countdown. *7 minutes until detonation. Keelter's stony face tightened. "I'm pushing the engines." "You'll burn the core," Vex shouted. "We're dead anyway," Keelter roared back. His arms blurred over the controls, forcing the engines to scream higher. The shuttle lurched forward, acceleration slamming them back in their seats. The stars outside stretched into thin lines. Zara's stomach twisted. Every muscle in her body screamed at the pressure. But she didn't care. All she could do was stare at the shrinking speck behind them, the hegemony cruiser that had been her prison for 3 years. It loomed, growing smaller, its hull splitting apart, light glowing from within as its reactor went critical. *5 minutes. The shuttle rattled violently. Sparks erupted from a panel, showering Nera's lap. She flinched but didn't cry out, her hands steady on the medkit strapped to her knees. 42,000 kilometers, Vex yelled. "We need more." Keelter snarled, "There is no more." Zara gritted her teeth. No, not like this. Not after they had come this far. She thought of her family, of Earth, of everything she had lost. And then she thought of these 3 aliens risking everything for her. There had to be a way. The console in front of her flickered. She reached out instinctively, fingers flying across alien keys she half understood. Suddenly, the engines changed tone. The stuttering, broken growl became a smooth, rising hum. Power surged through the shuttle. "What did you do?" Keelter barked, staring at the readings. Zara blinked at the console. I don't know. I rerouted auxiliary power through the stabilizers. It shouldn't even be possible." "Possible or not," Vex said, fur bristling in disbelief. "It's working." The shuttle leapt forward, speed doubling, then tripling. The stars blurred into streaks. 45,000 kilometers. 48. 10 seconds to detonation. Zara's breath came in short gasps. Every nerve in her body screamed. 50,000, Vex shouted. The hegemony cruiser behind them exploded. It was like a sun being born. The flash filled the void, brighter than anything Zara had ever seen. Even through the shuttle's shielding, the light seared her eyes. A wave of energy and fire ripped across space, slamming into them like the hand of a god. The shuttle spun wildly, alarms shrieking, panels bursting. Zara's body slammed against her harness as the world became a blur of motion and sound. She thought she heard Nera cry out, Vex cursing, Keelter growling in fury. But then everything was swallowed by chaos. For endless, terrifying seconds, they tumbled blind through the void. And then silence. The shuttle drifted, dead in space. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Zara gasped for breath, every muscle trembling. She looked around. Nera was bleeding from a shallow cut across her arm. Vex was coughing, clutching his shoulder. Keelter sat slumped in the pilot's chair, chest heaving, eyes burning with defiance. "Are we?" Zara's voice cracked. "Are we alive?" Keelter glanced at her, then at the faint glow of the stars beyond. "Alive," he rumbled, "for now." Vex coughed again, pulling himself upright. Half the systems are fried, navigation's down, engines minimal, but life support still works. Can we reach the station? Nera asked softly. Vex hesitated. Maybe if nothing else fails. Zara leaned back against her seat, her whole body aching, her mind reeling. She had dreamed of escape. She had prayed for freedom. Now she had it. But freedom came with a price. And theirs had only just begun. Excellent, let's continue. Here's part III, crossroads asterisk, \1 400 words. Hash part III crossroads. The shuttle limped through space like a wounded animal. For 14 hours they drifted, barely crawling along on failing engines. The air inside was heavy with the stink of burnt circuits and sweat. Every few minutes, a system would flicker, sputter, then die for good. Vex sat hunched over the engineer's console, his fur blackened with grease, claws working frantically. He muttered to himself in Korak dialect, a nervous habit Zara couldn't understand, but she recognized the tone. Panic caged inside determination. Nera sat beside her, quietly tending to wounds with her medkit. She cleaned the shallow cut across her arm with calm precision, then wrapped Vex's bruised shoulder despite his protests. When she turned to Zara, her pale eyes softened. "Your wrists," she said gently. Zara blinked. "What?" Nera reached for her hands. Only then did Zara notice the raw skin around her wrists, the deep grooves left by years of restraints. Her breath caught as Nera pressed a cool salve against them. The medic's touch was feather-light, almost reverent. For the first time in years, someone treated her not as property, not as a specimen, but as a person. Zara's throat tightened. She looked away, blinking hard. Keelter broke the silence. His deep, gravelly voice filled the cabin. "Station ahead, 10,000 kilometers." Zara leaned forward, peering through the cracked viewport. At first she saw only the void, stars scattered like cold diamonds. Then it appeared. Crossroads. An asteroid hollowed into a massive port, its surface bristling with docking arms and flickering beacons. Hundreds of ships surrounded it, freighters, shuttles, smugglers, craft, coming and going like insects swarming a hive. Her breath caught. After years of sterile corridors and locked doors, the sight of so many vessels, so much life asterisk, was overwhelming. Keelter's rocky hands were steady on the controls, guiding their crippled shuttle toward a docking arm. Sparks trailed behind them like a dying comet. "Docking clearance?" Vex asked nervously. Keelter snorted. "Crossroads doesn't ask questions. If your credits are good or your lies are better, you're welcome." The docking clamps latched with a teeth-rattling clang. The shuttle groaned, its systems finally giving up, lights winking out one by one. They sat in silence, listening to the hum of the station's life support seep into their craft. Zara exhaled, shaky, almost disbelieving. "We made it." Vex gave a weak grin, his whiskers twitching. "For now." The airlock hissed open. Warm, thick air rolled in, heavy with alien scents, spices, oils, smoke, ozone. The sounds followed, voices overlapping in dozens of languages, the clatter of tools, the low thrum of music from some distant bar. Zara stepped onto the metal platform and froze. The market stretched before her like a vision from a forgotten dream. The cavernous asteroid interior was alive with light and motion. Stalls crammed with glowing fruits, metals, and strange creatures lined the twisting corridors. Traders shouted over each other, advertising wares. Neon signs flashed symbols in alien scripts. Species she had only studied in books walked shoulder to shoulder. Scaled, feathered, furred, metallic. Some towered twice her height, others scuttled low to the ground. The sheer diversity made her dizzy. After 3 years among only hegemony captors, it was like stepping into a kaleidoscope of life. "Stay close," Keelter warned, his voice a rumble. His forearms flexed, ready to push back trouble. "Crossroads is neutral, but neutrality doesn't mean safe." They found a dingy inn above a repair shop, the kind of place that asked no questions if you paid up front. The room was small, barely big enough for 4 bunks and a flickering heater. But to Zara, it felt like a palace. That first night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling. She could hear muffled laughter from the market below, the clang of machinery, the endless murmur of life. It was freedom. And yet she couldn't sleep. Because freedom for asterisk, her asterisk meant nothing if her people were still in chains. 3 days passed. Vex found work repairing broken equipment in a stall downstairs, trading his skills for food and credits. Nera volunteered at a makeshift clinic, tending to sick traders and refugees who had nowhere else to go. Even Kielter, restless and grim, earned coin guarding a merchant caravan through the station's lower tunnels. But Zara wandered the markets in stunned silence, trying to absorb the immensity of it all. Everywhere she looked, she saw chains. Not literal ones, most of these beings were technically free. But she could see the signs, slumped shoulders, eyes that darted with fear, species that whispered about lost homeworlds. The hegemony's shadow stretched even here. One night she stood at the inn's cracked window, watching freighters leave the station, their engines glowing as they vanished into the void. She thought of Earth, of her family, of billions of humans scattered across prison worlds. She clenched her fists. "This isn't enough," she whispered. Nera's soft voice came from behind her. "What is?" Zara turned. Nera stood in the doorway, pale eyes watching. "Being alive, being free," Zara said bitterly. "It means nothing if the rest of humanity is still enslaved." Nera's face was unreadable. Zara stepped closer, her voice hardening. "We need to find them. If there are free humans out there, if any survived, they need to know what the hegemony is doing." Kielter, sitting on his bunk, looked up, his rocky brow furrowed. "The hegemony monitors every channel. Any signal will be traced." "Not all," Vex said thoughtfully. He set aside a half-repaired comms unit, his whiskers twitching. "There are smugglers, networks, whispers of an underground. They pass messages where the hegemony cannot see." Zara's heart pounded. "Then we find them." Kielter's stony gaze narrowed. "And if they find us instead, you don't understand the risk. You are the last human I've ever seen, if the hegemony learns you survived." "Then they'll hunt me," Zara snapped. "They already do, but hiding won't save anyone, not me, not humanity, not anyone." Silence fell. The three aliens exchanged glances. Finally, Nera nodded. "Then we'll help." That night, they descended into the lower levels of Crossroads. The polished markets above gave way to narrow tunnels lit by sputtering lamps. The air grew thicker, carrying the stink of oil and smoke. Bars and black market shops crowded the passages, their doors glowing faintly in the dark. They stopped at a doorway marked with a crooked sign, "The Broken Chain Asterisk." Inside, the air was dense with smoke. Dozens of beings huddled in corners, their voices low. The barkeep, a six-armed brute with bark-like skin, cleaned glasses with two hands while the others counted coin. His many eyes tracked them as they entered. "You're looking for something?" he said, voice a gravelly rumble. Vex stepped forward carefully. "We need to send a message certain governments wouldn't want sent." The barkeep's many eyes blinked slowly. Then he tilted his head toward a shadowed corner. "Sit, someone will come." They waited. Tension crawled through Zara's veins. Every glance felt like suspicion, every shadow a threat. Finally, a hooded figure approached. She lowered her cowl, revealing golden skin and wide, dark eyes. Her face was almost human, but her teeth were sharp when she smiled. "My name is Kira," she said. Her voice was smooth, almost melodic. "And I hear you need something dangerous." Zara's pulse quickened. Vex spoke cautiously. "We need to send word to the Outer Rim, quietly." Kira's gaze flicked across them. "That depends. Who are you?" Silence stretched. Zara felt her heart hammer. This was the moment. She could lie, pretend to be a smuggler, a refugee, just another nameless wanderer. It would be safer. But if she wanted hope, real hope. She took a breath. "I am human," she said quietly. "I was a prisoner of the hegemony for 3 years. These 3 saved me." The entire bar seemed to freeze. Conversations faltered, a glass shattered. Kira's golden eyes widened, shock, disbelief. "I thought humans were extinct." Zara met her gaze, steady despite the tremor in her voice. "We're not yet." "Great, here's part IV. The underground asterisk, \1, 400 words, carrying the story forward. Part IV, the underground. The silence in the broken chain was suffocating. Every eye in the smoky bar was fixed on Zara. Conversations had stopped mid-sentence. Even the barkeep froze, 4 of his arms still clutching coin, while the other 2 held a half-cleaned glass. Kira leaned forward slowly, her golden eyes narrowing. Her voice, when it came, was soft, dangerously soft. "Say it again." Zara swallowed. Her throat was dry, but her voice was steady. "I am human, Dr. Zara Chen. The hegemony captured me during first contact. I survived 3 years as their prisoner." Kira's sharp teeth glinted in the dim light. "Impossible. The hegemony claims Earth is pacified, that all humans are enslaved or exterminated." "They lie," Zara said simply. The golden-skinned woman studied her for a long moment, then flicked her gaze to Nara, Vex, and Keelter. "And you three, you risk your lives to smuggle her here. Why?" Keelter's rocky fists clenched on the table. "Because she saved us first." "More than once," Nara added, her pale eyes unblinking. Vex twitched his whiskers nervously. "Besides, she fixed things the hegemony couldn't, things no one else could. She's valuable." The bar murmured. Some laughed, harsh and doubtful. Others whispered in tongues Zara couldn't understand. Kira tapped her claws against the table. "Do you know what happens to me if I hand you to the hegemony?" Zara's heart thudded. Kira leaned closer. "They would shower me with credits, remove every bounty on my head, give me a ship of my own." Her lips pulled into a smile, then vanished as quickly as it came. "But if you're telling the truth." Her sharp gaze bored into Zara. "Prove it." Zara's mind raced. What proof did she have? She reached into the pouch she carried, fumbling out a battered datapad. It was the only thing she had smuggled from her cell, a relic she had hidden from the guards. Its memory banks contained notes she had carved in secret, hegemony words, prisoner schedules, experimental logs. She slid it across the table. Kira picked it up, scrolled through. Her smile returned, sharper than before. This could be useful." Then she leaned back and gestured toward the door. "Follow me, quietly. If you're lying, you won't leave this station alive." They descended deeper into the asteroid, down winding corridors lit only by flickering lamps. The air grew cooler, thinner. Walls gave way to rough-hewn stone, tunnels carved centuries ago. Finally, Kira stopped before a massive door guarded by 2 hulking sentries, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She spoke in a series of musical tones, a language Zara had never heard. The guards studied the humans and aliens for a tense moment, then stepped aside. The door rumbled open. Beyond lay a vast cavern filled with light and noise. Rows of consoles hummed, their displays glowing. Dozens of beings from a dozen different species worked at them, murmuring in low voices. Maps of star systems flickered across holoscreens. Signals pulsed across networks. Smugglers, traders, refugees, all moving with quiet urgency. Zara froze. "What is this place?" Kira's smile was grim but proud. "The underground. We resist the hegemony in every way we can. Smuggling, sabotage, information networks. We are small, but we survive." Zara's chest tightened. Hope, real, tangible hope. A tall, four-eyed elder approached, his purple skin gleaming under the cavern lights. His voice was calm, measured, but carried weight. "I am Jorak. I coordinate operations here. Kira tells me you bring news." Zara nodded, forcing her voice steady. "I was a prisoner on the research vessel *KTH Mara*. I know the locations of prison worlds, the types of experiments, guard rotations, slave routes." The elder's eyes narrowed. "And why share this with us?" "Because humanity is not dead," Zara said firmly. "And if there are free humans still out there, they need to know what's happening." Jorak studied her unblinking. Then he gestured toward a console. "Show me." For the next hour, Zara poured everything out. Every detail she remembered. Names of systems, prison world designations, the procedures of guards, the punishments, the experiments, the deaths. Her voice cracked more than once, but she forced herself to keep speaking. By the time she finished, the cavern had gone silent. Jorak's face was grave. "This is invaluable intelligence, but sending it out will risk everything if the hegemony traces the signal." "They'll come here," Keelter finished grimly. Zara leaned forward. "People are dying every day. If even a fraction of humanity survived, they must know, they must fight." The elder exhaled slowly, then he nodded. "Very well, we will prepare the transmission." The work took days. Zara and Vex spent hours hunched over consoles, encoding the message with stolen hegemony ciphers. Nara treated wounded smugglers returning from failed runs. Keelter trained with defectors, showing them how to break hegemony patrol routines. Each night, Zara lay in a borrowed bunk, staring at the cavern's ceiling. For the first time since her capture, she allowed herself to imagine the impossible, humanity alive, humanity free. On the 8th night, Jorek summoned them. The message is ready. Once sent, there will be no turning back. Zara's heart pounded. She stepped to the console. The screen glowed, waiting. She pressed her hand against the biometric pad, feeding in her personal ID her voice. This is Dr. Zara Chen of Earth. I am alive. Humanity is enslaved, but not destroyed. I am proof. If you hear this, fight. We are waiting. We are ready. Her words vanished into the system, translated into pulses of light, bouncing across relay points hidden in the dark. The message flew into the void. Zara exhaled, trembling. Now we wait. They did not have to wait long. 3 days later, alarms blared across the underground. Red lights strobed, voices shouted. Jorek stormed into their chamber, his 4 eyes wide. Hegemony warships just entered the system. They demand to search for fugitives. Keelter grabbed his weapon. They know. Vex's fur bristled. They traced it. Somehow they traced it. Zara's blood turned cold. They're here for me, she whispered. Kira burst through the doorway, cloak swirling. We need to move. Now. The station authorities will stall, but the hegemony won't wait forever. Where's Nera demanded? There's a freighter in Dock 7, Kira said quickly. Captain owes me a favor. He can get you off station. Zara's chest tightened, and the underground. Jorek shook his head. We will scatter. We've done it before. We will do it again. But you, he pointed a long, trembling finger at Zara. You must live. If the hegemony learns humans still exist, they will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. But if you survive... We can fight, Zara finished, her voice hard. The station shook as distant explosions echoed through the walls. The hegemony was already here. Kira's golden eyes flashed. Move. They grabbed their packs and ran, the corridors alive with chaos. Traitors shouting. Families fleeing. Armed guards clashing with hegemony soldiers in gleaming armor. Zara sprinted through smoke and fire, her heart pounding. Behind her, she heard the guttural war cry of the hegemony. They were too late. The hunters had found her. Perfect timing, here's part V. The Hidden Fleet asterisk \1 400 words. Hash part V, the Hidden Fleet. The corridors of Crossroads burned. Smoke choked the tunnels. Civilians shoved past them, eyes wide with panic. Traders clutched crates of goods, refugees dragged children, mercenaries fired at armored hegemony troopers as the air filled with screams and gunfire. Zara ran with Vex, Nera, and Keelter at her side, her lungs burning, heart hammering. The station shook violently as enemy blasts struck the outer hull. They've breached the docking bays, Keelter roared over the chaos. His rocky arms swung wide, shoving aside panicked civilians to clear their path. We'll never reach Dock 7 if we go through the main halls. Kira appeared out of the smoke, her golden skin gleaming in the dim light. She thrust a datapad into Vex's hands. Take this. It has every contact, every smuggling route, every resistance cell in this sector. If we fall, it must not be lost. Vex clutched it tightly, his fur bristling. What about you? Kira's sharp teeth flashed in a grim smile. I'll buy you time. She drew a curved blade from her cloak and vanished into the chaos. Zara's stomach twisted. Another sacrifice, another friend risking everything for her. Move, Keelter growled, pulling her forward. Dock 7 was a war zone. Smoke poured from ruptured pipes. Corpses littered the floor. Hegemony soldiers, insect-thin in gleaming black armor, fired at a desperate knot of defenders holding the line. At the far end, a battered freighter sat docked, its engines glowing weakly, its hull scarred by decades of use. That's our ship, Nera shouted. Then let's take it, Keelter bellowed. He charged, his massive stone fist smashing through a hegemony trooper's chest plate, tossing the body aside like a rag doll. Vex dove for a control panel, his claws flying, hacking the docking clamps. Sparks flew as he overrode the locks. Go, go, go. Nera dragged Zara aboard, shoving her into a seat in the narrow passenger bay. Keelter staggered in last, his arms smoking from plasma burns, his teeth bared in fury. The freighter's engines flared. The docking clamps released with a scream of tearing metal. Then they were free. The freighter lurched away from crossroads, weaving through debris and fleeing ships. Behind them, the station was a silhouette of fire against the void. Zara pressed a trembling hand to the viewport, watching as the hegemony ships swarmed. The underground sanctuary was dying. "Course set," the gruff captain growled from the cockpit, his scaled skin gleaming under the emergency lights. "Outer rim, but we'll need to lose our tail first." "They'll follow us," Vex said grimly. "They have to follow us." Keelter's rocky brow furrowed. "Then we lead them somewhere they can't go." The freighter ran dark, its lights killed, systems masked. They drifted through asteroid fields, skirted dead stars, slipped past patrols with narrow escapes. Days passed in silence, every sound tense with waiting. Zara lay awake each night, haunted by the sight of crossroads burning, by the memory of Kira's sharp smile before she vanished into the smoke. Had she died for nothing? One evening, as the freighter drifted in the shadow of a barren moon, Nara placed a hand on Zara's shoulder. "Don't carry it alone," she said softly. Zara met her eyes. "If not for me, crossroads would still stand." "No," Nara said firmly. "The hegemony would have crushed it eventually. You gave them something they'd never had before, a reason to fight. That's worth more than one station." Zara looked away, blinking back tears. On the 5th day, the captain called them to the bridge. "End of the line," he said, his deep voice flat. "We're at the coordinates you gave me, but there's nothing here." Through the viewport stretched only darkness. A dead star collapsed into cold silence, circled by broken debris. Vex's fur bristled. "This is madness, there's nothing." Then Zara saw it. At first just shadows among shadows. Then, as the freighter's sensors adjusted, the outlines appeared. Ships. Dozens, no hundreds. Hidden among the debris, their hulls blackened, their engines dark. Massive warships, cruisers, carriers, smaller escorts, all floating silently like ghosts in the night. Her breath caught. The human fleet. The comm crackled. A sharp voice rang through the bridge. "Unidentified vessel. You are entering restricted coordinates. Transmit authorization immediately or be destroyed." The captain's scaled hands trembled on the controls. "They'll fire." Zara shoved him aside, her heart pounding. She grabbed the comm mic. "This is Dr. Zara Chen of Earth." Her voice shook, but she forced it steady. "I was a prisoner of the hegemony for 3 years. I'm alive, and I have information." Silence followed. The crew exchanged fearful glances. Then the voice returned, quieter now, disbelieving. "Repeat your name." "Dr. Zara Chen," she said again. "Daughter of Admiral Marcus Chen." The silence stretched. And then the shadows moved. One of the massive ships powered on, lights blooming across its dark hull. Engines flared to life. Weapons unfolded like the wings of a giant bird. The Defiance Asterisk, flagship of the Resistance. Zara's breath caught as the comm filled with a new voice, deep and trembling. "Zara." Her knees weakened, her father's voice. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance Asterisk, his face appearing on the comm screen. His hair was grayer, his face lined with exhaustion, but his eyes were the same. "Father," Zara whispered. For the first time in years, Marcus Chen's hardened expression broke. His voice was thick. "I thought I'd lost you." Tears stung her eyes. "You almost did." Vex, Nara, and Keelter stood behind her, silent, watching. The Admiral's gaze shifted to them. "Who are they?" "They're the reason I'm alive," Zara said fiercely. "They saved me when the hegemony abandoned ship. Without them, I wouldn't be here." Her father studied them with the sharp eye of a commander, then gave the faintest nod. "Then you have my gratitude." Zara's voice hardened. "And my message, did it reach you?" The Admiral's jaw tightened. "Yes, every word, and it changes everything." The screen flickered, showing feeds from across the fleet. Officers, soldiers, engineers, thousands of faces staring at her image, their eyes wide with awe. "The hegemony told us humanity was finished," Marcus Chen said, his voice rising. "They told us Earth was broken, our people enslaved, but they lied, because here you stand, proof that humanity endures, proof that the fight is not over." Zara's heart pounded as the fleet erupted into cheers. But her father's voice cut through. hard and clear. And now, daughter, we strike back. You've given us what we never had before, intelligence, targets, hope. With your knowledge and our fleet, we will free them all. Zara stood straighter, her chest burning with pride and fury. 3 aliens had risked everything to save 1 human. And that 1 human had just lit the fire of a revolution. All right, here's part VI, the Great Rescue, \1 400 words. Part VI, the Great Rescue. The war room aboard the Defiance thrummed with energy. Maps of star systems glowed across the holotables. Red marks denoted prison worlds, 17 of them, scattered across the galaxy. Billions of humans languished there, enslaved, broken, forgotten. Now they would not be forgotten. Zara stood beside her father, Admiral Marcus Chen, surrounded by commanders and strategists. Vex hunched over one console, his claws dancing as he projected schematics of prison facilities. Nara reviewed medical charts with a cluster of human doctors. Keelter loomed by the tactical map, pointing out weak points in hegemony defenses. The plan was bold, reckless, suicidal. Which meant it just might work. 17 worlds struck simultaneously. The hegemony had never faced anything like it. Their doctrine relied on crushing small rebellions with overwhelming force, not fending off dozens of coordinated strikes. Dr. Marcus Webb, an old professor-turned-strategist, laid it out in his gravelly voice. Their fleets are designed to suppress 1 fire at a time, but if we set 17 fires at once, their response will fracture. They'll scatter. They'll falter. And the prisoners? Zara asked, her throat tight. We free them, Webb said simply. Her father's voice cut across the room. No delays, no half measures. Every strike team has 6 hours to secure their targets and evacuate. After that, hegemony reinforcements will arrive and will be overwhelmed. Zara clenched her fists. 6 hours to liberate billions. Impossible. But she had learned something in her cell. Impossible was just a word. Preparations consumed the fleet. Old freighters were gutted and refitted with hidden life support systems, enough to carry thousands of prisoners per ship. Engineers, both human and alien, welded day and night, patching hulls, wiring medical bays, reinforcing shields. Nara stood at the center of the medical preparations, her calm voice guiding human medics unfamiliar with alien physiology. The Korak hearts are low in the chest, she explained to Dr. Sarah Kim, pointing at a holographic projection. If they are wounded, pressure here, not here. Dr. Kim scribbled furiously, eyes wide. Many will be malnourished, Nara continued. Expect organ failure, infection, psychological shock. They will need compassion more than medicine. Zara watched, her chest aching with pride. Nara had once been a quiet medic, forced to obey the hegemony's commands. Now she commanded a corps of hundreds. Across the hangar, Vex was surrounded by engineers, both human and alien. He barked rapid instructions, his whiskers twitching furiously. Route the power couplings through * the auxiliary matrix, not around it. If you bypass safety twice, the whole system burns out. A young human mechanic frowned, but it'll never hold. It doesn't need to hold forever, Vex snapped. Only 6 hours, then it can explode for all I care. Keelter drilled human soldiers, his gravelly voice sharp with command. He taught them how to move through hegemony facilities, how to break formation tactics, how to read the insectal body language of their enemies. They rely on intimidation, he growled, slamming a trooper to the ground in a demonstration. They expect you to cower, don't. When you push back, they falter. Zara walked among them all, moving from station to station. She answered questions, filled in gaps, gave what she had, knowledge of the enemy from 3 years in their grip. Everywhere she went, eyes followed her. Human eyes, alien eyes, eyes filled with something she had thought long dead. Hope. The day came. 17 fleets departed, splitting across the stars. Zara boarded the Liberation *, a refitted freighter bound for TD Prime, one of the worst prison worlds, a research hub where humans were not just worked, but experimented upon. Her father clasped her hand before she left. Stay alive, Zara. I'll do more than that, she whispered. I'll save them. They arrived at dawn. TD Prime spun below, a gray world scarred with sprawling prison complexes. Its orbit bristled with defense platforms, automated guns swiveling as the asterisk Liberation dropped from hyperspace. Alarms blared across the ship. Enemy contacts lit the screens. 2 minutes until engagement, the pilot shouted. Zara strapped in, her pulse racing. Around her, soldiers loaded weapons, their faces grim but determined. Nera stood beside her, medkit strapped tight. Keelter loomed by the hatch, his arms crossed, eyes burning. Vex clutched a datapad, already plotting how to cripple defenses. The first volley struck. The ship rocked violently. Sparks showered the cabin. "Shields holding," the pilot yelled. Now Keelter bellowed, "Deploy fighters." Dozens of small craft burst from the freighter's belly, diving at the defense platforms. Explosions bloomed across the void. The Liberation plunged through the chaos, engines screaming. Then they hit atmosphere. The prison complex sprawled beneath them, black towers bristling with guns, surrounded by walls that stretched for kilometers. Zara's heart clenched. Somewhere in those towers, thousands of her people waited. The ship slammed onto the landing pad. The hatch blew open. Keelter charged first, roaring, his stone fist smashing a guard aside. Soldiers surged after him, weapons blazing. Zara followed, her legs trembling, her mind burning with fury. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and screams. Prisoners huddled in cells, eyes wide with disbelief as doors burst open. "Move," Zara shouted. "You're free." The words felt like fire in her throat. Nera darted past, kneeling beside a skeletal man who had collapsed. She pressed a stim into his arm, whispering soothing words. You're safe now." Vex tore into the control room, claws flying across consoles. Overriding security, 10 seconds, no, 5. Alarms wailed, doors hissed open one by one. And then it happened. A flood. Prisoners poured into the halls, thin, broken, but alive. Their eyes burned with something the hegemony had failed to kill. Defiance. Zara choked back tears as they surged past her. Men, women, children, survivors. "Go to the ships," Keelter roared, his voice like thunder. "You're free." Explosions shook the walls. Enemy reinforcements poured in, their insectal bodies screeching. Blaster fire tore through the halls. Zara grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, the metal heavy in her hands. She braced against a doorframe and fired. One soldier fell, then another. Her body remembered what her mind had tried to forget. She had never been just a scientist. She was a survivor. Hours blurred into chaos. The Liberation filled with prisoners until its halls overflowed. Other transports landed, loading thousands more. The air reeked of blood and sweat, the screams of wounded mixing with the thunder of engines. Zara stumbled into the medical bay, where Nera worked with blood up to her elbows, her pale face streaked with soot. "We're out of stims," a human medic shouted. "Then improvise," Nera snapped, her calm broken by desperation. "Boil water, sterilize cloth, anything." Vex burst in, fur matted with sweat, datapad in his claws. "We've disabled orbital defenses, but reinforcements are coming. Thousands." Keelter appeared in the doorway, his armor scorched, his rocky skin bleeding. "Then we leave, now." Zara looked around at the crammed ship, at the faces staring back at her, at the hope, fragile and fierce, glowing in their eyes. She turned to Keelter, her voice hoarse. "Not everyone is aboard yet." Keelter's stony jaw clenched. "If we wait, none of us survive." Before Zara could reply, the deck lurched violently. A massive explosion ripped through the hull. The lights flickered, the alarms screamed, and the voice of the pilot rang out like a death knell. "Enemy cruisers inbound, we're surrounded." Got it, here's the *** final part * of the story. Part VII, the revolution **, words. Part VII, the revolution **. The Liberation groaned as enemy fire ripped across its hull. Alarms shrieked, prisoners screamed. The ship shook so violently that Zara was thrown against the bulkhead, pain lancing through her ribs. "Shields failing," the pilot roared. "We can't hold." Through the viewport, Zara saw them, 3 hegemony cruisers, massive black shapes blotting out the stars. Their weapons glowed, ready to reduce the freighter, and the thousands of freed humans aboard it to ash. Her heart thundered, not like this, not after everything. Keelter slammed his fists into the console, his stone skin cracking under the force. We'll never outrun them. Vex's whiskers twitched furiously as he hammered keys. I can overload the engines, but it'll burn us alive before it gets us clear. Nera's pale hands worked frantically over a wounded boy, blood soaking her sleeves. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned. We don't get to quit now. Not here. Not when they've just begun to hope again. Zara staggered to her feet, her mind racing. Then her gaze snapped to the comm system, half sparking, wires hanging loose. The fleet. Her father. They weren't alone. She seized the mic. This is Dr. Zara Chen calling all resistance vessels. TD Prime is free, but we are trapped. Any ship within range, we need you now. Static filled the channel. For a terrible moment, nothing answered. Then voices, dozens of them. This is Redemption inbound. We hear you, Liberation. Hold on. The fleet is coming. Zara's chest clenched. She turned to her companions, fire in her voice. We're not dying today. The void lit up. From the darkness, resistance ships emerged. Freighters, fighters, stolen hegemony craft, even civilian vessels jury-rigged for battle. They dropped from hyperspace in waves, weapons blazing, shields flaring. The Asterisk Defiance led them, its massive cannons roaring. Admiral Marcus Chen's voice thundered across the comms. All ships engage, protect the transports at all costs. The black cruisers reeled under the sudden assault. Explosions rippled across their hulls as resistance fighters swarmed like hornets, striking engines, tearing through armor. The Liberation shook again as a blast clipped its wing. Prisoners wailed. Engines offline, the pilot shouted. Vex's claws blurred across the console. I can patch them, but someone has to go outside and fix the coupling by hand. Keelter didn't hesitate. He tore free his restraints and stomped toward the airlock. Zara grabbed his arm. You'll die out there. His rocky eyes burned with determination. Better me than them. Before she could argue, he was gone, striding into the void in a borrowed exosuit. Through the viewport, Zara saw him leap across the hull, plasma fire blazing around him. His massive arms wrenched the coupling into place. Sparks lit the darkness. Inside, the engines roared back to life. Systems restored, Vex howled triumphantly. But then a new alarm screamed. Nera's pale face turned toward Zara, horror etched in her features. The hegemony flagship, it's here. The flagship was a monster. 10 times larger than the Asterisk Defiance Asterisk, bristling with weapons, its shadow eclipsed the battle. Its cannons opened fire, shredding resistance ships by the dozen. Zara's chest clenched. For every human freed today, hundreds more would die if the flagship held. Her father's voice came through the comms, grim and steady. All units fall back to defensive positions. Hold them as long as you can. But Zara knew the truth. They couldn't win this head-on. Not with firepower. Not with ships. Her mind raced back to the years in her cell. The endless hours staring at hegemony schematics. The quiet rebellion of memorizing every flaw. The flagship had a weakness, she knew it. And now, she realized, she had the one engineer mad enough to exploit it. She turned to Vex. Their main reactor, where's the exhaust routing? Vex's whiskers twitched. He pulled up schematics, his claws a blur. His eyes widened. If we overload the plasma ducts, yes, it would cascade, blow their core sky-high. But someone has to get inside, Zara said. Keelter's voice crackled over the comms, distorted by static as he clung to the hull. Say the word. No, Zara said sharply. Her voice shook, but her resolve was iron. This is my fight, my people, my risk. Zara, Nera began. No, she said again. She grabbed the weapon from her belt, her heart pounding. You saved me. Now it's my turn to save all of us. The shuttle they stole was barely spaceworthy, its hull scarred, its shields flickering. But it was fast. Zara piloted it herself, weaving through the chaos of battle, dodging enemy fire as resistance fighters cleared her path. Her knuckles were white on the controls. The flagship loomed before her like a black mountain. Its weapons tore through Allied ships, but its sheer size made it slow to respond. Her comm crackled with her father's voice. Zara, no, you'll never make it. Her throat tightened. You told me once humans survive because we do what others won't. This is what we do. And she dove into the flagship's belly. The hangar bay was chaos. Hegemony soldiers screeched as the shuttle tore through their barricades, crashing into the deck. Zara staggered out, smoke stinging her eyes, weapon raised. Alarms wailed, enemy troops closed in. And then stone fists smashed them aside. Keelter roared, his exosuit dented, his rocky arms stained with blood. "You didn't think I'd let you do this alone." Behind him, Nera burst from cover, blaster in one hand, medkit slung across her shoulder. Her pale face was fierce. "Someone has to keep you alive." And Vex, grinning madly, clutched a satchel of explosives. "And someone has to blow it up." Zara's throat caught. They had followed her. Not because they had to. Because they chose to. Together, they fought their way through the flagship's corridors. Zara fired until her hands went numb. Keelter ripped through enemies with his bare fists. Nera dragged the wounded out of fire, her voice calm even as blood soaked her robes. Vex planted charges at every junction, his laughter high and wild. They reached the reactor chamber at last. It pulsed with blinding light, conduits glowing, plasma roaring through pipes the size of buildings. The heart of the beast. "This is it," Vex whispered. His claws danced over the explosives. "Once these blow, it's over." Zara placed her hand on the detonator. Her voice was steady. "Do it." The explosion was a sun. The flagship split apart, its core tearing itself to shreds. Fire ripped across the void, consuming everything in its path. Resistance ships pulled back, prisoners cheering aboard their freighters as the hegemony's pride and terror vanished in a single blinding blast. The battle was over. The hegemony fleet broke. Ships fled in chaos, discipline shattered. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's aura of invincibility was gone. And in its place, hope. The celebrations lasted for days. Billions were freed across 17 worlds. The fleet returned battered but unbroken, carrying more survivors than anyone had dared to dream. On the bridge of the Defiance Admiral Marcus Chen addressed them all. "Today we proved what the hegemony wanted us to forget. We are not broken, we are not beasts to be chained, we are human, and we are free." Cheers shook the ship. Across the fleet, across newly liberated worlds, voices rose as one. Zara stood among them, exhausted, bruised, but alive. Her gaze turned to her companions. Vex, his fur singed but smiling. Nera calm even through exhaustion, Keelter standing tall despite his cracked skin. 3 aliens. 3 friends. They had saved her when she had been nothing but a prisoner, and together they had lit a fire that would burn across the stars. Months later, Zara stood in the council chamber of New Horizons Station. Representatives from dozens of liberated species filled the vast circle, their voices rising in debate, their banners fluttering side by side. At the center, Zara lifted her voice. 3 aliens saved 1 human, and because of them, humanity was not extinguished. Because of them, we stand here together, not as slaves, not as prey, but as equals. This is our future, not one species ruling all, but all of us bound by the simple promise, no one will be left behind. The chamber erupted in applause. Vex smirked, Nera bowed her head, and Keelter crossed his mighty arms with pride. The galaxy had changed. The revolution had begun. Far beyond the edge of known space, a message pulsed through the void. A distress call from a world humanity had never heard of. Zara stood on the observation deck as the Alliance fleet prepared to depart, her heart steady. 3 aliens saved me once, she whispered. Now we'll save them all. The stars stretched into hyperspace. The revolution was only beginning.